there's certain times when you want a party to have different equipment between the members so that you're not all swinging regular swords at something. You know, you might want somebody with a bow,
Mm-hmm.
somebody with darts or bludgeoning damage, different kinds of damage.
Yeah.
How do y'all feel about equipment balancing?
I'm really bad at it. I'm really bad at it. It's either all ranged or all melee, and I almost never equip them to do both. My current character can do all melee. He has one breath weapon attack, and that is as far as he goes towards range, is about 30 feet. That's it. I'm really bad at it. And I keep reminding myself, okay, you got to get him like a crossbow or something. And then, nope, never do.
That that can be frustrating in the moment, but I have never been in a party and noticed like, oh, this person can't do anything from range. They have to move into melee. It's something that, okay, they're walking up to smack somebody. Cool.
Yeah.
It's a monk. What is he going to do?
What's he gonna do?
Flurry of bows.
No. Except for I have a strength-based monk. It's not
Yeah.
even dexterity-based. That's the problem.
Yes.
I made him strength-based.
You just screwed that up from the beginning.
I made bad choices
I
through
told
and
you how to
through.
build a monk.
You did. And I ignored
Did
you
listen?
completely.
You did not. Now you complain about, I don't like this monk.
My
Well,
monk
'cause you
doesn't
didn't
work.
build a monk. You built a fucking fighter and put a damn tunic on him, a headband on, and said, go act like a monk.
You
Exactly.
built a Ninja Turtle.
I did. I built a Ninja Turtle.
So I think equipment balance in a party is relatively easy to do.
Within
You
your
know?
person's harder.
Within a person is tough. Shout out to or prelude to a min-max discussion, but I always try to get several types of damage in my personal arsenal. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, I got bludgeoning, I got piercing, I need a slashing,
I
right?
need something that can do some magical damage. Like,
Because you run into these characters that are resistant to bludgeoning damage. Well, if all you have is your monk's fist, you're gonna wish that you chose katana as your monk weapon,
right.
right? So
Yeah. And that's definitely a thing is I think I agree between the party members, there's rarely ever a problem of enough types of weapons. It's usually within your own character that you realize, like, if we're shooting at like a dragon, my monk on the ground is going to have little to no effect unless that dragon decides to touch down. Like, he's just going to be standing there like, good job, guys.
I've rarely had any sort of problems with that because I tend to play druids or some other
Yeah.
form of caster, and they're very diverse. In
right,
what
and
they
if you
can
don't
do.
like the type of damage you're dealing, just morph into a
Change form.
different creature.
Do different
or
damage.
cast something,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
different options. So it's not something I've come up against personally. And even if it's something that flies and I have to wait for it to come to the ground or whatever, make a bonfire and make some s'mores for the party.
You and that damn bonfire.
But like playing monks or rogues, right? You really want to stick to finesse type weapons
Mhm.
because then you're allowed to use dexterity
Dexterity.
where you'd normally use strength on certain weapons. And just off the top of my head, most all finesse weapons are piercing.
Mhm.
I can't think of any that are something different, right? So you're kind of stuck with the pokey.
Poke.
You know who was really good with the pokey? Jean-Luc Picard.
I hear he turned himself around with that.
What?
He's a fencer.
Oh, God.
There's multiple scenes.
Yes, there is multiple scenes of him fencing. Fucking hell. But no, yeah, like if you go for like rogue or monk, like those finesse weapons are really beneficial, but they really limit you in your damage type. And so then you start looking up, okay, well, how can I get my rapier to be like at least do magical damage? Like, because there's those things that are like if it's non-magical damage, doesn't do shit to them, So you start having to look at unique ways to get the variation in your damage type.
I'm surprised that I know there are homebrews out there, but I'm surprised that the sword singer type characters hasn't made it into Wizards proper quite yet. Because it seems really cool to have like sort of a mixture of bard and fighter where it's magical damage, but it's from the way the sword dances and all that kind of cool stuff.
Don't they have? I want to say there was something with bards that gave you something very similar to that. I can't remember what it was.
Might be. I just never looked at bards.
That's fair.
I don't think I've ever played a bard. In fact, I'm certain I never have.
Don't really ever want to either.
They're cool enough, and I've seen people play them awesomely.
Yeah.
I don't
Not
have
for
any
me.
personal draw towards playing a bard.
But what if
College of Puns. I might do that.
you could do that, or you could make Billy Joel in every session just belt out. "Ack, ack, 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 ack."
You ought to know by now.
I'm moving out.
Yeah. Between the three of us, we have a pretty wide, like, we cover most of the bases on character classes, don't we? Of what we prefer to play. Just realized that because I played a bard. I had a good time.
Kind of in the same realm. What's the biggest piece of equipment for magic users? Their spells. I know it's a stretch to call that equipment, but the way that everybody else uses weapons, they use
Yeah.
spells. So I know a few times I played a magic user. Maybe doesn't even count. It was an artificer. Was the last time I played a magic user. I did try to make sure that I had different types of damage available in the spells.
Yeah.
Force damage, fire damage.
And I used to always at least one of my spells and the levels I get more than 2, I would try to make sure was some form of utility, like the create food and drink. I think we never used it in your campaign, but being Salt Marsh and being on a ship, it seemed like something you'd want to have in your back pocket
Yeah.
just in case. And there's a lot of good things you can do in that realm. But then it does sometimes find you, man, I have create food and drink here, but I don't have any damage for this thing. I should have taken that other spell instead.
Yeah.
And I got this DM who's not playing a lot onto the whole survival aspect of the game, where I thought he might, and he hasn't, and so here I am
Stuck.
carrying the spell. Yeah, that's poor DMing there.
No, it wasn't that it was poor DMing. It was I was over preparing for something that may or may not actually happen, which I tend to do sometimes. But
The other thing I like to do in Magic Users and others, like when choosing feats or whatever, is give myself a range of action types, like actions, bonus actions, reactions.
Mhm.
So as a spell user, having spells that be done as a reaction or a bonus action are always good to have. As a more of a martial type, you can find feats that allow you to do something as a bonus action or as a reaction. So I started looking for those kind of things. I've started keeping my character sheets, like with every feature I've got right next to it, what type of action it is.
Right.
So in your turn, you've just fought, and the DM says, okay, anything else? I can do a quick look down and say, do I have any? Oh, there's a bonus. Let me see if that applies here. So.
Yeah.
But that all gets to that balancing thing. It's not so much about equipment, but I brought in the category.
I also think I don't play magic users, but like I imagine as a magic user there's a balance in like 1v1 spellcasting and like area of effect spellcasting that has to be taken into account. I know some of my characters have had area of effect items. Like my current character has a breath weapon that can be an area of effect, and knowing when to use that versus a 1v1 kind of skill. And that's something that I think is really great when you can attack multiple people, whether it's by multi-attack or a spell that does damage in a radius or a whatever. I think that's definitely a good way to keep yourself
Balanced.
Balanced.
in the game.
I feel like we've said balanced far too many times.
Well, it's in the
Starting to-
topic, so
It's starting to sound like it's not a real word anymore. You know how you say something too many times and then it's just like, is that even a word anymore?
But something you said, John, made me think of something that maybe we could make a future topic out of if we haven't already. Spells out of combat. You know, you talked about the food and water one. That would have been great to use if the DM had really. I've been in a game where the DM made it very survivalist. Those things come into play, you know. And there's a bunch of really great spells and cantrips that a lot of people just skip right over because they can't say, there's no way I could cause anybody damage with that. And it's all about the combat. And so if you get into more of those things, it broadens the role play aspect of the game. So maybe
Yeah,
a topic for
like
another
definitely
time.
like how you prep your character based on like if it's a nearly constant combat kind of scenarios or if it's a lot of like interim time where you've got travel, you've got shopping days, you've got all this stuff like that's something that you got to think about quite a bit depending on your DM, like what they do. Yeah.
But to the main topic, you know, equipment balance. I think you should strive to have several different types of damage at your disposal and several different types of attack, ranged and, you know, melee. So anybody, I mean, there are simple ranged weapons. Even if all you did was pick up a sling and are hurtling stones, grab yourself a ranged weapon as well as a melee weapon.
I've done that before. It's not very satisfying. But
Not at all. Neither are darts on 1d4.
it's better than nothing at all.
Yeah, it's worth
Because when the dragon is up on the ledge and all your friends are shooting and you're like, wish he'd come down here. At least throw a rock at him is what I'm saying.
or take
You'll
like
feel better.
take a skill that gives you a taunt that lets you like yell at him like, "Hey, yo, fucktard!" That way he comes down to you. Like at least take something, do something.
Back to the 1v1s versus area of effect. That's another one of the things that can be frustrating if you are like going into the lair of some evil sorceress or something and you're like, okay, this is going to be an epic 1v1 fight. And as it turns out, like her power is that she transports you to a giant field somewhere where her army is. And you're like, oh my God,
Yeah.
I should have took Thunderclap.
Right.
Damn it.
Minions. Are you scared of me, bitch?
And it's tough when you're playing that caster and you have done the right things and equipped your AoEs and the paladin runs up into the middle of everybody like, I am here.
Right. Dude,
Like-
step aside. I was about to cast Fireball. Yeah.
Balancing
There
can
have
be
been
tough.
more fireballs screwed up by non-magic users than magic users, but they always get the rap. You know, I didn't ask how big the room was. I said I cast fireball, but more often than not, it's somebody else in the party getting up in there and ruining the chance to cast the fireball because I can't do it now without torching your ass too.
Sometimes you just got to do it.
He's a tank. He can take it.
You're gonna be dumb. You gotta be tough.
In the
That's right.
calculus of the multiverse.
I specifically said last turn I'm prepping fireball. You made a bad choice, bro. Yeah.